You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. So, Time has named Zelensky the man of the year. Oh, I'm sorry, person of the year. I guess saying man of the year dates us. It's
sexist.
Person of the year.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want
Don't
to
be a chauvinist.
We don't want to give a gender to a man. Zelensky's been named Time's 2022 Person of the Year. Now, it just says Time. I don't know if it's still a magazine that's in print form or not. If anyone knows if Time magazine is still in print form, let me know. I've not seen a Time magazine in a long. I haven't seen a magazine in a long time.
Yeah, I get the Apple News, which has all the digital magazines for $10 a month. I love it. But what magazines do now, if you go to the grocery store and you see them, they have special editions that are like $25, $30.
And no one buys.
And they'll do a whole. I don't know. I think people buy them. They'll do a whole magazine. It's like a booklet on a certain band or a certain topic, like a historical figure. And they're very good. They're very well put together. They're a little overpriced, but that's what magazines, they have like special editions now. So Time might they might have a whole magazine just about him and the war and Russia as a special edition that people buy.
Well, I don't know. So he's man of the year, which is really not a big deal anymore, being man of the year, person of the year. I keep saying man of the year, person of the year.
Yes.
It used to be a big deal. It doesn't seem to be too big of a deal right now. But
No, I don't think anyone can.
Here's the thing with Zelensky being named man of the year. This guy, a few things about this. One, he's a criminal. And I say that he's a criminal because it was reported just a couple weeks ago that he was laundering money through the FTX Bitcoin Bankman scandal to fund the entire Democrat Party's midterm election. And what had happened was, of course, we gave him like just unlimited amounts of money. We basically turned the U.S. Mint over to Zelensky. They've been sending him just nonstop money. He bought $100 million worth of the FTX coin, which is bizarre because we're told he needs every penny he can get because his country is about to collapse and he needs this money. And he invests $100 million in this cryptocurrency, this FTX cryptocurrency, which seems bizarre. And then we find out that out of that $100 million, Bankman-Fried gave a little over $30 million of it back to the Democrats. And that's how Bankman became the second largest donor to the Democrats. The number one donor is George Soros. The second highest donor is Bankman. And he did it with this Zelensky money that was laundered through the whole thing for the Democrats. So he's involved in just on that, he's a criminal, Zelensky. So let me read this article. This is in Newsmax on their website. Time magazine named Ukrainian President Zelensky 2022's Person of the Year Wednesday, saying he inspired Ukrainians and won global accolades for his courage in resisting Russia's devastating invasion. You know, this whole war stinks, okay? I find it hard to believe that if Russia wanted to just pour through Ukraine, they couldn't do it, okay? And there's just something fishy about this. Refusing to leave Ukraine's capital at the outbreak of the wars, Russian bombs rained down, the former comedian rallied his compatriots and broadcast from the capital and traveled across his war-torn nation, the publication noted, in bestowing its annual title. On Tuesday, Zelensky visited troops near the front lines. Zelensky's success as a wartime leader has relied on the fact that courage is contagious. It spread through Ukraine's political leadership in the first days of the invasion as everyone realized the president had stuck around. Time wrote in acknowledging the 44-year-old leader. Elon Musk was named Person of the Year in 2021, a year that saw his electric car company become the most valuable car maker in the world. Time began the tradition in 1927. And I'll tell you, they would never have made Elon Musk Man of the Year if he had bought Twitter before.
No, they might take that back.
They might. They might. You never know. Now, this Man of the Year thing, I know it's Person of the Year now. It used to be Man of the Year. And The Man of the Year used to be a big deal, like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue used to be a big deal. And the liberals were in that, right? They put in, they have a transgender swimsuit model, I think. I don't know.
Probably.
If they didn't, it'll be next year, I'm sure. But
that was a way to get men to subscribe. I remember my brother used to get Sports Illustrated. Yeah. And that was, magazines used to be really big in the 80s and stuff. Mm-hmm. And my stepmom got Time. We got that every week. And my brother would get, I got probably like 17 in Vogue or Cosmo. I think I got 17 in Cosmo. And, but my brother got Sports Illustrated. And I remember this swimsuit issue was just a way really to get guys to subscribe.
Playboy. It was like Playboy.
Kind of, I mean, almost.
Yeah.
To get guys to subscribe to it. That was like a big selling point.
So,
now it's a political tool.
And the Time Man of the Year thing, I just keep forgetting to say Person of the Year. Come on.
It's all right.
The Time Man of the Year thing not only used to be a big deal, there used to be a lot of buildup in the media for like a week before it came out, 2 weeks before.
Kind of like The Sexiest Man Alive.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that anymore either. I don't even know who that is.
And the media would speculate, who's the Man of the Year going to be? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And they're making a big deal about Zelensky being the Man of the Year, which I think is disgusting. Uh-huh. But it should be pointed out that another Man of the Year was Adolf Hitler. In 1938, Time named Adolf Hitler Man of the Year. I'm not saying that Zelensky is Hitler. I'm just telling you that Time magazine has a strange pick on their lineup.
Hitler chosen?
1938. Now, let me read this article.
And I wonder what their reasoning was.
We'll find out in this article. Time magazine explained what was perhaps the most controversial of its choices, Hitler becoming 1938's Man of the Year. Hitler became in 1938 the greatest threatening force that the democratic, freedom-loving world had seen. Hitler's rise began in 1919. I think this is what Time magazine wrote back then, okay? Let me go back. Hitler became, in 1938, the greatest threatening force that the democratic, freedom-loving world faces today. That was January 2nd, 1939, that was written. Hitler's rise began in 1919 when he joined the German Workers' Party. And that's an important thing. The Nazis are socialists. It's the National Socialist Party. Their original name was German Workers' Party. Very communist sounding, isn't it? Socialist.
It is.
Hitler's rise began in 1919 when he joined the German Workers' Party, which was renamed the Nazi Party. Within 2 years, he was the leader of the party. In 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, soon consolidated his power, banning other parties, establishing totalitarian rule. Now, Zelensky's been banning political opposition, and he just banned the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So,
wait a minute. What do you mean?
The Ukrainian Orthodox Church this week was banned by Zelensky.
Why would he do that?
Probably because he's a tyrant who doesn't support religious liberty, but he probably believes that the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is part of the Russian Orthodox Church and they're spies, is probably his excuse. But back to this time on Hitler, I know he's
so what do people do? I mean, how do the people there feel about this?
Worship Jesus in secret, because the Time Man of the Year won't let you worship if you're Orthodox.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Back to this.
It's like he's taking a playbook out of Hitler.
Yeah, back to this. Well, yeah, there's also this Time magazine article on Hitler. Hitler, meaning Hitler, put the unemployed to work in public programs, rebuilt the army, sent Jews, communists, and others to concentration camps. And it goes on and on. I don't know why they named him Man of the Year. I just don't know. Hold on a second here. Let me look at this. So this is something that Time Magazine has had, little shadow over them all the years. So as I was reading I was looking for some articles on this. I found one here from USA Today. It says, fact check. Time magazine did not praise Hitler with 1938 Man of the Year title. So I thought, well, wait a minute. I've heard my entire life Adolf Hitler was Time's Man of the Year. What are they talking about with this, right? Well, listen, I tell you, these propagandists, this is a USA Today fact check. The claim, Hitler's selection as Time Man of the Year shows why the media is not your friend. Time magazine's Person of the Year franchise began in 1927, then known as Man of the Year. The first person to appear on the cover was Charles Lindbergh in 1928.
Another winner who also loved the Nazis.
I don't think that's true.
That's what everybody says, that he sympathized.
No. Yeah, Lindbergh They
he had
say
another
that.
family in Europe too. He had a whole other family
He did.
that his wife didn't know about with kids and everything. He was a polygamist.
The reason that people say that Charles Lindbergh was a Nazi is because he was a Republican at a time when Roosevelt was in power, and it was not popular being a Republican.
So he was like Trump.
And because he was a great, well-known airman, he did travel to Europe and went and viewed the factories in Germany before the war that were making airplanes. So they branded him a Nazi.
Yeah.
He was also opposed to U.S. interference in the European war at first, before Pearl Harbor and all of that stuff. But it's fake news because he was a Republican who opposed FDR. They labeled him a Nazi. Anyway, a decade later, it was Adolf Hitler's turn. Time magazine named the Nazi leader Man of the Year for 1938. Never forget the fact that Adolf Hitler was Time magazine's Man of the Year in 1938, reads the text with an image of Hitler in an August 16 post. Moral of the story, mainstream media is not your friend. Fact check. While it is true that Hitler was selected as Time's Man of the Year in 1938, it was not an expression of commendation, quite the contrary. Time's criteria for selection is the person or persons who most affected the news of our lives, for good or ill. Time wrote in 2014, arguably, you could do a bad guy every year and be justified, they said. And it goes on and on. So they've been trying to make excuses for their praise of Adolf Hitler in the past. But I just want to tell you this, that in the stories that I've read about Zelensky being named Time's Person of the Year today, I have not seen a single story yet mention that Adolf Hitler was also named Man of the Year in 1938, which tells you all you need to know about Time magazine. But you know, this war in Ukraine, which is a big money grab by the Democrats and a big scam that they're running, was exposed with this FTX money laundering scam that Zelensky was involved in. And you notice how Zelensky laundering money to fund the Democrats' midterm election campaigns, that also was not mentioned in any of the stories.
No,
and and Bankman, who for some reason is not in jail, he's still walking around in the Bahamas doing interviews and everything. That whole angle of the story about him laundering money for the Democrats has disappeared from all the news.
He just hired whatever her name is.
Giselle Maxwell.
Yeah, he just hired her lawyer.
Well, he did so good for her. She's in prison.
I know.
I don't know why he would hire him.
Well, she is in a nice prison. They did transfer her to this women's prison in Tallahassee, which is supposed to be very nice. And she's jogging and cooking and teaching yoga and, you know, enjoying life, I guess, as much as you can enjoy it. But, yeah, that's who he just hired. I'm not sure. He should have hired Casey Anthony's lawyer. That would have probably worked better for him.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, he got her off, and I mean, you know, that was pretty difficult.
Yeah, well,
or
it happened.
Or the Dream Team, of course. A lot of them aren't around anymore.
Yeah. Well, it happened. Well, anyway, Zelensky. They're going to praise Zelensky, and you know, this endless praise of Zelensky is completely insane. This guy, just a month and a half ago, Time Magazine names it. They're praising him as this Person of the Year. A month ago, 6 weeks ago, he was trying to get the United States to launch a preemptive nuclear strike against Russia, who has a nuclear arsenal larger than ours. So this guy brought us to the brink of a nuclear holocaust. He's been involved in money laundering. God knows what else, and they're honoring him with this? This is insanity to me. And of course, he's going to be praised all over the place.
The left love him, and I wonder how Democrats felt about Hitler before the war. Did they praise him too?
Yeah, they did. In fact, Democrats.
I think so.
Democrats, not only.
There's a scene in the Charlie Chaplin movie, which is true because I read Charlie Chaplin's autobiography, where he goes to a party. The movie with Robert Downey Jr., which is excellent, and it's with all these Hollywood liberal people, and there's like a Nazi there. And they just are fawning over him, and Charlie Chaplin actually confronted him about it because he was, probably because he was European and knew what was really going on over there because he was British. But they just fawned over this guy, and I think liberals just love dictators.
They
do. They
Chavez,
you know why? Because
Castro.
Because the liberals love control, and they respect people who get control over other people. That's what all Democrats have in common: is they love power and they love control over people, and they respect people. I mean, look at Sean Penn with these dictators in South America. and Michael Moore, and they just think they're the greatest thing in the world. It's just amazing.
Well, remember,
to me
Sean
because they
Penn
love power.
Sean Penn went and hung out with El Chapo, and then they've been always been this.
They got
way.
a thing for people that oppress people, I guess. And they always have,
because they're oppressors.
They like control.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch gears if you're ready on this one story. There's a new poll out with showing DeSantis way ahead. Several early polls reveal that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is the 2024, this is in Fox News, is the 2024 presidential candidate most GOP voters want, while Americans would like to see someone other than Biden. Well, that's unanimous, as the nominee. According to a recent Marquette Law School poll, I don't even know what that is.
No, that's a common poll that you see.
Okay, 63% of voters would rather see DeSantis over Trump, who only received 36% in the survey. Among Republican identifying respondents, DeSantis, who has not said he's interested in running, secured a 10-point lead over the former president. Excuse me.
Of course.
It seems like these polls are shifting now, and I wonder how Trump feels about that. And they are shifting. I mean, I've read a lot of them the last few weeks, and the polls are shifting in DeSantis's favor. And I think these high-profile losses, Herschel Walker, Carrie Lake, and Oz, I think it's not good for Trump. I'm going to be real with you guys. It's not good for Trump. I know it's only 3 races, but they're very high-profile people that he chose, that he, was fully behind. They were his people. He backed them, campaigned for them a lot. And the problem with it is it's about perception. And the problem is the perception now with people that want to run for a political office is if you have Trump backing you, endorsing you, you might not win now. It's not necessarily a slam dunk, which it used to be. And there are a lot of races he won, but these are 3 very high profile races. It would have been so nice if Herschel could have pulled this off, but we all knew it probably wasn't going to happen.
Trump won hundreds of races.
I understand that, Brian, but it's the perception. It's the perception.
I'm not done talking. He won hundreds of races. These 3 are high profile. Okay,
very high profile.
Now, Dr. Oz was not a good candidate. I'll give you that. I don't think Donald Trump realized.
I don't think Herschel Walker was either.
How unpopular Dr. Oz was. I don't think he realized that. He was a bad candidate. Carrie Lake made a big mistake. I've talked about this. Yeah. She came out in Arizona and told McCain Republicans not to support her.
And she spent way too much time going back and forth with the media. It got tired after a while.
When Carrie Lake said, I love Carrie Lake.
I do too, but after a while it was like, okay, we get it. You don't like the press. You're not going to change them. Let's move on.
I love Carrie Lake. I like everything she did. She made one mistake. When she told McCain Republicans not to support her, that's every Republican voter in Arizona over the age of 30 or 35. And because John McCain had held office out there for so long, that was a mistake because she's new to politics. There's a little bit of amateur hour there. Herschel Walker is a much different thing. He's one of the most popular, famous guys in all of Georgia. People like him. People respect him. I talked on the radio a great deal what happened. Nothing involving Herschel Walker's loss had anything to do with Trump. There were 2 things that happened. In the main election in November, there was a Libertarian candidate. The Libertarian candidate, most everybody that voted for the Libertarian would have voted for Herschel Walker or any Republican running. Herschel Walker lost in November by 37,000 votes, less than 38, 37,000 and change votes. That's not a lot, 37,000, right? The Libertarian candidate got 81,000 votes, 81,000 votes. So that's amazing. I mean, and those are votes that were taken from Herschel Walker. At least half of them he would have won.
Yeah, but he didn't get those votes yesterday.
Well, because what happens is this.
You think he would, but he didn't.
There's a couple things happened after that, okay? The Libertarian aspect, taking 81,000 votes away from Herschel Walker in November, nobody even really realizes that. I don't think many people realize. People are aware there was a Libertarian candidate. I don't think they realized that he cost Herschel the election in November. So what happened going into the runoff was a number of things. Warnock had won by 37,000 votes in November, so he had the perception of having already won. Plus, Herschel Walker, the Republicans gave him no money. And I got a call on the radio today from a voter in Georgia. He said he was seeing Warnock ads day and night on television, hearing them on the radio, and he was getting nonstop text messages. He didn't see anything or get anything from Herschel Walker. So the Republican Party establishment shut down Herschel Walker, and so because they wanted Trump to have that loss.
That's why
Dr. Oz and Carrie Lake are different.
That's why Trump is going to have a very difficult time getting candidates to line up with him now, because they don't want to destroy their career, and nobody wants to lose, especially after putting so much time and energy. And then what do you do after that? You're branded a loser. I mean, nobody wants to lose on such a colossal scale nationally. And people that are going to run are going to be like, well, if I line up with Trump, I'm going to get raked over the coals. They're going to, I mean, these women came forward, whether they were true or not, I don't know, but look what they do to you. And then they don't back you. They don't give you the money. This is all part of their plan. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying Trump's wrong. What I'm saying is the perception matters in the public. And what I'm saying is, for most people are not as politically involved as, say, we are, or the audience. I mean, they're really not. They just see what they watch, the news on TV at night, and then they go about their day. And all they see is, well, people that Trump backs are not winning. And that's going to hurt his juice in the party. I could be wrong. I mean, he's laying very low. I feel he should have had a rally in Atlanta. Atlanta is the biggest area in Georgia. It is huge. There's so many people there. A lot of black people. Obviously, there's a huge black population in the city. Why didn't he have a rally there? Why didn't he go there? It seems he doesn't.
It was smart that he didn't do it. I'll tell you why he didn't do it. It was the right thing for Donald Trump not to have a Herschel Walker rally for the runoff, and I'll tell you why. He knew Herschel Walker had no chance of winning in the runoff. And I've been telling you guys the whole time he was going to lose. And if he would have gone there and had a rally, the result would have been the same, because the Republicans made sure that the Republican get out the vote machine was turned off.
No, I mean, why didn't he do it before the runoff?
He did rally in Georgia.
Not in Atlanta.
I don't know about Atlanta, but he rallied in – hold on, Kathy. He rallied in Georgia before the November election. He didn't do a rally during the runoff period because he knew Herschel Walker was going to lose, that it was hopeless. And if he would have had a rally, there would have been a lot of people there, but he would have been blamed for the loss big time.
These cities in these states, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Columbus, these cities that have the most concentration of people are what sway these elections. And you could have a candidate like Herschel Walker that the whole state is red except one county, Fulton County, is blue, and he's done. It tips the scales. Yep. So I think there's some strategies that Trump is using that are not working, and you need and one of them is telling people to vote on election day. That's a horrible strategy. And the other one is avoiding these blue cities and not campaigning in them at all. Because those cities, Chicago, I know he had a problem in Chicago when he first ran, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen everywhere. These huge cities where they have such a concentration of people, they just ignore them. And those cities sway these states big time because there's so many people in those cities. And I feel Herschel should have really focused. He had the other votes in the rest of the counties. His attention on Atlanta, going around. Trump should have been there. They all should work together. But I understand the GOP is working against him. And now the perception is that if you attach yourself to Trump as a candidate, it's not a slam dunk anymore.
It's not my perception.
Whether it's the people or not voting for him, they
Kathy,
won't get the backing and the money that they need.
Earlier this week, okay, just the other day.
I'm just being realistic here.
Well, you're wrong. A few days ago, the lieutenant governor of Georgia, who is a Republican, he's the second highest ranking Republican in the state of Georgia, right? The guy's a Republican. He's the lieutenant governor. He gave an interview, and he said that he went to vote. He waited in line for a couple of hours, which is bizarre. The lieutenant governor, he couldn't cut the line. But anyway, he waited in line for a long time. This is for the runoff. He got up there, and he said he couldn't vote for Herschel after waiting in line all that time. And, that's what you have with the Republicans and Herschel Walker.
Because he aligned with Trump. So you have the whole system against you.
The reason
the perception will be, how can I win when the whole system is against me here?
The reason they did that, the Republican Party made sure Herschel Walker lost.
Yep.
And the reason they did that is because they want to brand Trump a loser.
Right. And they're going to do that with everybody that aligns with
They're trying to rid this country of the MAGA movement.
Of course.
And when they pull some scheme like that, that doesn't mean, well, we're going to give up. We're going to fight harder and support MAGA candidates even better.
I'm not saying give up. I'm saying change strategies, shift gears a little bit, think smarter. You have to, like you talk about on the radio show, how they have a get out the vote machine and all this stuff. We don't do that with the GOP. We never have. That's even before Trump. That never happened.
That's
what
right.
they do. So you have to ask yourself, why doesn't the GOP ever do that? I think because most of the GOP are rhinos and they're really liberals and they don't want to win. They don't want to have the majority because then they'd have to do things they don't want to have to do. They like the way things are because they like having control over people. All politicians like that control. And if they win the House and the Senate and the presidency, they actually have to do stuff and deliver. And how many times has that ever happened?
Well, listen, we got to take a quick
Never.
break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere, guys. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Do you ever think that your life needs a spiritual upgrade? The book, Lord, I Need an Upgrade, from author Lydia K. Atube, offers 16 weeks of Bible scriptures and inspirational messages to help you in rising higher in your faith walk with God. This prayer journal has been set up in a weekly format with short inspirational messages, scriptures to guide you as you travel this road of faith and victory in Jesus, and an area to write your favorite praise songs, dreams, and visions received. Lord, I Need an Upgrade includes weekly messages, scriptures to meditate on, and the theme of praise is carried throughout the book as prayer points. Reflection portions are also included for each week for a 16-week timeline. If you're looking to get closer to God, this is the perfect book to help you get where you want to be. Lord, I Need an Upgrade, from author Lydia K. Atube, available on Amazon. Order your copy right now. Comedy podcast fans, there's a podcast that will have you on the floor laughing. Gene and Ozzy bring you the company of two fun-loving and joke-cracking old friends. They're two old friends that discuss all kinds of things, but no controversial subjects and no politics. It's a fun and clean time you can count on to make you smile. It's perfect for your drive to or home from work. Take a break from the stresses of life and have a chuckle as you listen to Gene and Ozzy discuss your favorite topics.
Hey, I'm Gene.
Hola, I'm Ozzy. Welcome to the Gene and Ozzy Show.
Did you want to be Darth Vader?
Never.
What?
No, that was not my favorite character on Star Wars. And sometimes you had no idea how to even play the game. I can't describe Joust to you. I had no idea what that game was all about.
Stuart had more toys than I did.
You know, I got to meet the Stewart one of these days. Is he alive?
He's still alive. He's our age, and
At our age, you got to ask, is he alive? Like, the kids ruled the world in the 1980s. Everyone...
We ruled the world in the 1980s.
Yeah. Of course, parents still beat us to death, but, we felt like we had the upper hand on them.
Parents had the real control, but in our brains, we ruled the world. The thing about my Aunt Lizzie was she had a smoker's voice. And it was like this. And see your Aunt Lizzie. Sounds like you were alfalfa in school.
Oh, it was terrible. Beyond your imagination how terrible I looked during school days. What is it? What were the shoes that we would wear in the 70s and 80s?
Buster Brown shoes.
Buster Browns. Buster Browns.
The Gene and Ozzy Show, brought to you by your favorite host, Gene and Ozzy. Find these two funny guys on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Add the Gene and Ozzy Show to your playlist right now. Parents, grandparents, and teachers, are you looking for a book to help introduce your child to emotions? Pick up a copy of My Selfie, a monstrous book of feelings from author Shelley Hibb, available on Amazon. This children's picture book is perfect for teaching your little one the concept of feelings. Each easy-to-read page has a corresponding emoji paired with illustrations depicting big emotions and a color-changing monster who matches an emotional color wheel. It's a fun and simple way for kids to become aware and comfortable with their feelings. skills. Give your child the gift of understanding emotions and help them learn coping skills as well as strategies that they'll keep with them for life. From author Shelley Hibb, My Selfie, A Monstrous Book of Feelings, available on Amazon. Order your copy right now. From author J.C. Finnegan comes your next must-read book, The Divided Stories of America, The Green Forest, available on Amazon. Have you ever thought, what if the United States of America were no longer united? That's the premise of The Divided Stories of America, which chronicles a scenario in which divergent political ideologies have finally splintered the greatest country the world has ever known. In the aftermath of the national divorce, the present is grim, and the past has been labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory. With truth existing only as a fading memory, Finn struggles to convince his girlfriend of the importance of freedom while holding out hope that it still can be found somewhere. Finn encounters two people from his past whose revelations are the catalyst for a plan that could cause the ruling elite to strip Finn of everything. What happens next? Find out and discover if he chooses the assurance of safety and security over truth, freedom, and love. And order your copy of The Divided Stories of America, The Green Forest, from author J.C. Finnegan, available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. You know, there's a story out with Kirk Cameron. It was on Fox, and let me read this. This is the headline: Kirk Cameron is denied story hour slot by public libraries, plural, for his new faith-based kids book. With a new children's book out that celebrates family, faith, and biblical wisdom, actor, writer, producer Kirk Cameron cannot reach scores of American children or their families in many U.S. cities via the public library system because over 50 public libraries have either outright rejected him or not responded to requests on his behalf. A story hour program for kids and parents connected to the new book releases is an activity that many libraries typically present to their patrons and communities, especially when someone's a famous person like Kirk Cameron. I mean, if Kirk Cameron was at one of the libraries in our neighborhood, I know it's kids' story time. I'd go to kids' story time to meet Kirk Cameron. Many of the same libraries that won't give Kirk Cameron a slot, however, are actively offering drag queen story hours or similar programs for kids and young people, according to Kirk Cameron's book publisher and according to a review of the library's websites and current program listings. Some library programs promote gender fluidity, inclusion, and diversity. I don't even know what that is. I guess that's when your gender can change throughout the day.
Can change minute by minute. Like Demi Lovato. She's a man 1 minute, and then 5 seconds later, she's a woman.
Others offer name change clinics for older teens and adults who want to alter their official paperwork for gender identity reasons. Brave Books, Cameron's publisher, shared details of the story hour request and the rejections received to date with Fox News Digital exclusively this week. A public library in Providence, Rhode Island, for instance, told Kirk Cameron and his book publisher by phone, "No, we will pass on having you run a program in our space." You know, Rhode Island was founded by Christians so they could have freedom for their Christianity.
Persecution.
And Rhode Island very specifically. Now look what they are. They're tyrants. We are a very queer-friendly library. Our messaging does not align. So basically what these libraries are doing, they're banning books.
Okay, so wait a minute. His sister got a lot of heat for saying that the Hallmark Channel doesn't do shows that promote traditional marriage. Okay, so she got raked over the coals for that. But the library can reject him, and that's okay. Aren't they doing the same thing with we're pro-gay, so we're anti-hetero? How is that any different? You just flip the coin.
Well,
and they're actually like oppressing him and stopping him from selling his book.
Here's the thing:
Candace is not stopping anybody from making movies.
You know, librarians are historically liberal, and you can tell that librarians are historically liberal by the selections that they have in their libraries. If you go through libraries, you see little sections like, you know, you see your gay studies thing. You see all these different things. You never see anything about conservatives or Republicans or Clarence Thomas or people like that. They're always liberal in their selections. They're well known to be liberals. But one thing that they talk about in this article that some of the libraries have told them, not all, but some of them, is having Kirk Cameron at the library because it's Christianity violates the separation of church and state. I've got news for you. The separation of church and state is a liberal urban legend. It does not exist. What the Constitution says is that the government of the United States will not set up a state of the that the United States government will not set up a church of the United States, because remember, there was the Church of England, and you had to be a member and worship at the Church of England under the, in the colonial rule, et cetera, et cetera. So they wanted to make sure that any denomination or any religion was free to worship, unlike in Ukraine today, where the Ukrainian Orthodox Christian Church has now been banned. And liberals do believe there's a separation of church and state. It just doesn't exist. Not in this country.
Well, I think that also you could mean it where the government can't prevent you from worshiping. I mean, we have people that worship the devil here. They have churches of Satan.
And I'm sure they can meet at the libraries.
And exactly. And that's allowed. And I think that should be allowed. I think as Americans, you should be free to worship what you want. Obviously, you don't want to have people hurting anybody. But that's freedom of religion. So the government should not be able to tell you what you can or cannot worship. Obviously, if there's something illegal going on, like sacrificing animals or something, that's a problem. But you know what I mean. So, but over in Ukraine, I'm sure the liberals would tell you that banning the Orthodox Church. I'm curious what kind of churches they have. Is he starting his own church? Is he like Henry VIII?
You're talking about Ukraine?
Yeah. Is he going to be the head of his own church?
No, I told
is that what he's trying to do?
I don't know.
What's going to replace
I don't know anything about the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. All I know is that Ukraine was part of Russia, and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is probably connected with the Russian Orthodox Church.
So I'm wondering what they have in place.
And he thinks that they're spying for Russia. That's probably what he
Well, this
thinks.
happened during the time of Henry VIII. They pretty much abolished the Roman Catholic Church, and that was a huge problem. They had people getting killed and stuff like that, went back and forth, because he wanted to start his own church, which was basically the same doctrines, but he put himself at the head of it. So I'm wondering if Zelensky's doing a similar move, if he's just creating his own church where he's the head of it.
It would not surprise me.
But it's the same type of service, but he's just shifting who's the head of the Orthodox Church there. I don't know anything. I know nothing about that.
Who knows anything about the Ukrainian
I know it's
Orthodox
like the
Church.
Justinian church that I know a little bit about that, but I'm not sure if there's like a head of that church or how the hierarchy. I know obviously God is the head of the church. I didn't know if there's like popes or bishops. I
didn't even know there was a Ukrainian Orthodox Church until Zelensky banned it. But back to this thing with Kirk Cameron and the libraries, not letting him in there with his book.
That's crazy.
For children. I know what the media are doing because I've seen some of this coverage. There's some Supreme Court cases about some people that have been sued by gays because they won't do business with gays. There's one case where a woman won't do websites for gay weddings or gay
that's
things.
In the Supreme Court right now.
And and there's always a Baker case going around. A lot of times what you're dealing with, a lot of times businesses are targeted like the Bakers, right? There was a wedding photographer who got in trouble. She would not take photographs at a gay wedding.
Well, now there's a Top Chef star, Brittany Anderson, co-owned restaurant, canceled reservation for Christian group's private event.
Well, yeah.
Citing staff dignity and the group's opposition to same-sex marriage. So now you have a woman who owns a restaurant in Virginia who canceled a Christian group's reservation. They're called the Family Foundation because they oppose same-sex marriage. So now we're going back to discrimination here.
This is the deal, okay? Like with the library is different than the restaurant. It's different than the bakers that wouldn't bake for the gays. It's different than the photographer and this woman with the website. A library is not just open to the public.
Yeah.
A library belongs to the public.
Yeah, we pay for it.
So you can't now obviously you don't allow pornography and things like that, even though they're letting very questionable things in with the drag stuff. But libraries are not just open for the public, they are owned by the public and they are for everyone in the public.
Yeah.
These businesses, I know it seems rather controversial and everything, and I don't like it. And I don't like either side of it. It's really a messy issue. But the civil rights era, people were being denied because they were black from going to places. You know the story. And a lot of people don't realize here in Florida, where Kathy and I live, back in that Jim Crow era, there were areas where Jews were banned. Jews were banned from going to beaches. It sounds crazy.
Now we have a chef banning Christians from her restaurant.
So what the civil rights movement did, and what the Supreme Court ruled in the civil rights movement, is that if you are a place that is open to the public, even though you're a private place, you're open to the public, you must serve all of the public, and you can't discriminate against people based on race, religion, and things like this. Now the problem is there's new things that exist now that didn't exist then. The different genders.
True.
Back then, there were gay people, but they were not out of the closet, living out of the closet.
That's right.
So a lot of these things were really not considered in those times. And, what a lot of conservatives have said over the years is that places should be able to discriminate, that if it's a private business, it would be bad business for you not to let certain people in. And I'm not so sure that's true. I think places, a restaurant that canceled the Christian reservation, I think there's a lot of people out there that hate Christians that would book a reservation, say, I got to eat there.
Well, the problem is,
I don't think it's bad for business, sadly.
No, not anymore. And the problem is liberals that are in these groups, not everybody, but liberals, minorities, gay, whatever, they feel that white Christians have been the oppressors for hundreds of years, and now it's their time to oppress us. It's their turn to oppress us, and it's totally fine with them. They're giving us a taste of our own medicine. That's how they see it, and I've heard people say that, and it's payback. So they feel totally justified. The media has been successfully painting us as dangerous, hate speech, Nazis, and all this stuff. So that allows this kind of discrimination to occur because we're dangerous after all. If they let us in the restaurant, they're in danger. So that's going to be totally fine. But I'd like to figure out how Kirk Cameron can be discriminated against, how this restaurant owner can kick out Christians. But this woman who owns a website had to go to the Supreme Court to defend her right to not work with a gay company.
Yeah. Well, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout out on each and every episode of our program. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters: Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, and Rome, Wisconsin. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this and every episode. And there's also a direct link on my website, briancraigshow.com. I just want to say this about people that, all these people that are discriminating. In my line of work, I have worked with every type of person you can imagine. And I don't think people should be discriminating against people. I think if you got a business that's open to the public, you should serve everyone. Now,
I don't understand.
With that being said, sometimes things happen, okay? For example, the bakers are a little different because a baker is actually it's a form of art. You go to a bakery to have a specialty cake done. You're paying an artist to create a special type of artwork, and you can't require someone to make a special type of thing for your occasion. Like there's been issues with people that have wanted cakes made to look like a swastika or Happy Birthday Adolf Hitler. Somebody wanted on a cake, and a baker refused to do it. And of course, people supported them not doing something so bizarre. And I know those are extreme examples, but there's a cake that I've seen, not for a long time, and I've never had one of these, but I did know somebody got. They used to be popular actually many years ago, not in my circles, but around the country. Those boob cakes. You ever see these things? They're like pornographic, like a woman, and they're like boob cakes. And those used to be very popular. And I would imagine if you went to one of these Christian bakers and asked for one of those cakes, they would say no.
I've seen people have abortion cakes.
Oh, my goodness.
I would never make that. But you could make the same argument with a chef that creating an art is a big umbrella here. Now we have creators. That's, a new type of job where you're a creator. And that's a big umbrella now. It's much bigger than it used to be. And you could say, well, a chef is an artist. They create art out of food. Their meal is a form of art because they're taking ingredients and making something delicious. It's no different than a baker. So you're getting into a really weird area here. I don't like discrimination.
Of course not.
But I'm also more libertarian in the sense that if you own a business, you should be able to serve who and who you don't want to. You can refuse service. I remember, I don't see this as much anymore, but when in the 80s and 70s, I would see a lot of signs on businesses that say, we have the right to refuse service. I don't see that as much anymore as I used to, but it used to be on stores and restaurants all the time. And, so I'm kind of torn on this. I don't like discrimination at all. But then what does it come to? A business doesn't want to serve black people or serve Mexicans or white people. That's what's going to start happening now.
Well,
you're
Kathy,
going to start seeing businesses that are, say, owned by minorities. If a white couple comes in, they might say, you're a Nazi and you're dangerous and I feel unsafe with you here. Get out of my restaurant. And we're getting into a really bad place in this country because just like the devil, liberals like to divide people. That's what the devil likes to do. He likes to divide you from your family, from your friends. Yeah. That's how you divide and conquer. And that's what liberals are doing. And going out in the media and saying that white Christians are dangerous and this and that. But, Christians used to do that too with the gays. They used to say similar things back in the 70s and the 60s, that they're dangerous, they're perverts. I remember hearing that kind of stuff. And you may or may not agree with that. I personally don't. But they used to say that stuff too. So I don't know if this is just the human condition that this is the way it is, but I hate to see it. I hate to see people being treated this way. It's upsetting.
What's going on here, it's a trap, okay? What's going on here is the Democrats are causing a lot of things to happen to divide people.
Yes.
And the reason we're in a great time in this country. A lot of you don't remember, okay? And Kathy and I grew up after the age of segregation, but here in Florida, not that long after it, I went to a school in 5th grade that was the black high school for the county here in Florida back during the days of segregation. And that was around 1981. And it was so recent that people actually still referred to it as the colored high school in the town regularly. I was new to Florida. I came from Ohio, and that was an unusual thing. And I just see there are public buildings that are very old buildings here in Florida you can go to, and they still have the blacks only, whites only signs up for historical purposes. They're still there. So, this country in 2022, we have come so far beyond anything you guys.
I feel like we're regressing.
You guys can imagine. A lot of you know these times.
Yeah.
Remember them. You're older than us. A lot of people like us grew up not long after them. And now we have complete integration in our society. We have had a black man president. Not just once, but he was reelected. Gay people are open everywhere. Even President Trump had Rick Grinnell as one of his top people who's openly gay and still is out there working for President Trump. So what's going on is the Democrats are stirring up a bunch of trouble to try to get people to fight over things that this country has already gotten over.
That's exactly right.
And we've regressed on a lot of these issues. Gay marriage has been legal for years now. It was made legal when Obama was president. And when it happened, it happened quick, but it wasn't that big of a deal in our society. If it would have happened in the 80s or during the Clinton years, it would have been more controversial. These things, pretty much all of them, not everything, but most of them, the country has overcome them and settled on the right position. And now they're getting us to fight old battles.
Yeah,
and it's a trap because a lot of people.
That's how they
That's right.
Divide and conquer.
So what a lot of people do is I've been doing this so long in talk radio. I've been through so many, over 30 years now I've been on the air. So I've been through so many cycles with these issues, and I've seen, the one thing there's a lot of things about growing old people don't like, and I find it really interesting because you get such great, as you grow older, you gain perspectives that you just can't even explain to people because you see the cycles of things.
True.
And
you look back, and perspective is huge.
Yeah, and I remember when there were a lot of Christian Republican organizations that were fighting very hard against gay rights and everything. And Donald Trump, even those of you that don't like Donald Trump, it very interesting. When he was running for president the first time, this is when the Caitlyn Jenner thing had just happened, and he was asked a question: can Caitlyn Jenner use the ladies' room at Trump Tower? He said yes, and I thought he was in trouble then because I thought a lot of Christian Republicans would no longer support him because he's coming out in favor of gay rights and transgenderism and all this stuff, and it didn't hurt him at all. In fact, it helped him. And he got Christian endorsements and support in that race. And I thought, wow, we've gotten beyond that. So now this thing that was settled, they brought up all these different issues. Some of them we've talked about. And a lot of conservatives fall for the trap and start arguing against gay rights again, even though all the gay rights have been achieved and it's a battle that's over.
That's what I think these drag shows are all about.
Yes.
It's getting all the conservative Christians all riled up and getting that going again, that old fight going again. Because I was really thinking about it, like, why all of a sudden is drag shows are drag shows a thing at libraries and schools? All like very quickly. This wasn't like a slow thing, very, very quickly. And this has been completely staged and planned by the left to get conservative Christians, and they've taken the bait. Of course, what are you going to do? You got to do something about it. Get us all riled up and fighting over this issue. And now the gays can make us look like bigots again, or people can fight. It just creates more and more division. I just think of the people in Alabama in the 60s when those black kids were going to school and they were spitting on him and screaming at him. It was horrific to see stuff like that. And I see it's just upsetting. But, human nature, back to Cain and Abel, has a long history from the beginning of time of being horrible to each other and treating people horribly. And this is nothing new. It's not going to change. But I would just say in this country, culturally, and you don't see this in other countries, and I think it's because when you go to other countries, they're not as diverse. You go to Japan, like 98% of the people are Japanese. They're the same religion, the same culture. They share the same ideas. You go to Italy, it's the same thing. 95% of the country is Italian Catholic. You don't have the division in these other countries because they're not as diverse as America is. America is so diverse, and that's a good thing. But people are allowing their divisions, their differences to divide them. But I really have to believe that for the most part, most Americans are kind to each other. And what you see in the news and in these stories is not a reflection of our whole entire society. When you see these libs of TikTok with these crazy teachers, I like to think that's a small percentage. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be careful, but then sometimes it seems like it's getting worse. Is it getting worse, or is just the media making it think it's worse?
Well,
I don't know.
This is what I would say. What my advice would be to people, in particular conservatives, don't take the bait. Remember Rodney King? Can't we all just get along?
Exactly.
And that was a very wise statement. Rodney King, and I'll tell you this about Rodney King. Not only was that a wise statement, he was on Dr. Drew's Celebrity Rehab one season. I don't know if you guys remember that, where the Celebrity Rehab Dr. Drew show had. And Rodney King was on it one season. Rodney King passed away. I know this. And if you can find this on YouTube or something, Rodney King was out of, I can't remember the other celebrities that were in the sober house with, in the rehab with him, but they were basket cases. And Rodney King was like the wise man in this group of celebrities giving advice. That. It was amazing. But anyway, I know it sounds nuts because when you think of Rodney King, you don't think of that. But when he said, "Can't we all just get along?" You know, you don't,
such a simple idea.
You don't want to take this bait that they are throwing to put people at each other's throats. And unfortunately, people are. Now, I want to say that we are out of time for today, but we'll be back next time. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in and of course, Kathy and I very much, as we get close to the end of the year, appreciate all the support that you've given us over the years on this program.
Definitely.
And of course, this program will be around for many, many, many more, and probably forever. Kathy and I will be doing this program for the rest of our lives.
And I want to thank, like you said, the Patreons, and I want to thank all the people that come in the chat on YouTube every night at 6 o'clock when we put up the show. I know for a lot of people that's a dinner time, and we really, really appreciate everybody being there and joining in the conversation. It's a lot of fun, and there's people there that never miss a show. And we really appreciate it.
I don't promote that too much. Those of you that just listen on the podcast platforms, because the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms. Mm-hmm. If there's a podcast platform, we are on it, including some that are very exclusive podcast platforms. The program's been around for a long time, and we've been invited to be a part of incredible platforms. But most of you, I hope, know that I'm also on YouTube. I live stream and I'm on the radio in the mornings on YouTube, and I have a live chat there. We upload the podcast to my YouTube channel, but when we upload it with a live premiere that has a live chat room going on during the podcast when it's initially running for that.
And Brian
episode.
And I are there.
Yeah, and it's a nice community we have in our chat room. It's a lot of the people that are there on the radio show in the morning, but a lot of people that can't make it in the mornings are there later in the day. And it's really a great, great community.
Even if you don't want to chat, it's fun to, because not everybody participates, but you might want to just read what everybody's saying and talking about and their opinions. And plus, another thing Brian does on his YouTube channel, if you go to the community section, we put a lot of polls up there, and on some YouTube. Of our polls get almost 4,000 votes. We're getting more and more votes every day. That's amazing. And we try to put up a couple polls a week on what's going on in the news. So we'd like to see your input and talk about that. You can leave comments. It's unlike a lot of other podcasts, I think Brian and I are very interactive with the audience. How many people do a podcast where they have a live chat where does Sean Hannity do that? Not that we're Sean Hannity, but where he has a live chat and he's actually in there chatting. We're very interactive, accessible. We appreciate everybody, and we really like to hear your opinion on things, whether you agree with us or not. It does mean a lot to us that you guys are so supportive.
Yeah,
it really does.
And my YouTube channel, just search Brian Craig on YouTube. There's a link to my YouTube channel on my website, briancraigshow.com. And I do put a lot of content up there. We upload the podcast to my YouTube channel. I live stream when I'm on the radio weekday mornings from 6 till 9 a.m. And I put up a lot of other content there too. I randomly vlog. I put up YouTube shorts. I got a vlog coming up that I show to our Patreon supporters and our members this week. But I'm gonna make it available soon to everyone on YouTube. I gave a tour of the radio station that we're moving out of. Right, our radio station moved from one location to another this week.
How are you liking that drive?
It's a longer drive than I've had before.
That's true.
But the old radio station was about half the distance.
Yeah.
But the old radio station, I made a YouTube video, a vlog of the radio station, and at the time I made the radio station, it was almost all taken apart, and the only thing that was not taken apart was the studio I was actually using. So I gave a tour of the entire radio station as it was in the middle of being ripped apart, and you've never seen a radio station like this. I've never seen so many wires in my life coming out of walls and things. It's pretty wild. So I'll make that available to everybody on YouTube probably over the weekend. So check that out. And when I get settled into the new radio station studios, I'll make a YouTube video giving you a tour of that. But I want to wait until I'm broadcasting from the new radio station, but not from the new studio I'm going to be using yet. The new studio that I'm going to be using, it's finished being constructed, but they're working on the wiring and things like that right now. So that's supposed to be done in a few days.
I would think that takes a long time getting all those wires, because you said there's so many wires, getting them all straight, going exact. I don't know how those engineers do it.
There are 2 full-time engineers that are involved in this, and it's absolutely amazing. They've done a magnificent job. And the studio that the studio I'm using now is new to me, and it's very modern compared to what I've been using. But the one that I'm moving into, it looks like Elon Musk and SpaceX built it.
You told me that radio engineers, it's like a very good career because
It's one of the best.
not many people do it. It's a very, very like specific specialty. And they're very sought after because it's a highly skilled job.
Big money.
You make a lot of good money. But yeah, it seems like putting all that together. I mean, I just have trouble like figuring out the wires for our Christmas decorations. I can't imagine putting together.
Radio station engineers
crazy.
Are amazing. The things that they know,
engineers
you have no
are really
idea.
smart.
You have no idea. It's amazing, and it's the best job in radio so far as pay and job security.
How do you learn that? Do you just apprentice with somebody?
I don't know. They know so much. I don't know how they
wonder
know
how they
it.
get into that line of work.
They're basically, I don't know. They're basically they are engineers.
Yeah.
They're electricians.
Yeah, like
they're,
an electrician. I would think.
They're carpenters. They can do
It's amazing.
everything.
Yeah,
and,
because they have to build consoles and figure out the electrical
and
part.
as the technology gets updated,
Yeah.
increased, they're up to speed on it. I don't know how they do it. It's really amazing what they do. I can't understand it. I couldn't do it.
And you're going to have higher tech equipment because you told me the board you use is smaller and it's more efficient
The board
than what you've been using.
The board I was using at the old radio station, the engineer told me, I said, this board's about, 25 years old. He says it was used when they bought it 25 years ago.
Oh my God, so it might be 40 years old. Who knows who used that board? Maybe somebody,
Well, the one board, the studio that I was broadcasting out of the last couple of years, before I used it, that studio was being used by a Caribbean reggae music radio station.
Right.
And they were doing all kinds of things during the show around that board. And I told the engineer, because when I started using it, he opened up the board and rebuilt it, did like a rebuild of it. I said, I could only imagine what you found inside that board. He's like, I'm not talking, Brian.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway,
don't stereotype.
But anyway, it's no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. As soon as I walked into the studio, it had a smell that you don't normally get. But anyway, when I'm settled into the new studio and I'm comfortable and everything, I'm going to give a tour of that one too. And I tell you this, I've worked at a lot of radio stations. The one I'm at now, I tell this to everybody there. It is the cleanest radio station I've ever been in my life. It's like a surgeon's room. The thing about radio, most people that work in radio,
there's not a lot of clutter.
There's no clutter
because I saw a video and it's very pristine.
There's no dust. And the thing about it is radio is mostly men, right? It's mostly guys in every radio station. And sometimes you have people in the sales department or receptions, but mostly men. So men,
don't notice that.
We
stuff.
don't clean.
No, they don't notice dust.
Radios, and they always say this. This is what they always say. It doesn't matter what it looks like because it's radio.
I think that's
nobody sees it.
I think that's part of it too.
Nobody sees it. It's theater of the mind.
Right.
And it's
not visual, but now with YouTube, it's a little different.
Well, that's what I tell people. I'm live streaming on YouTube.
Yeah.
It is. The radio station I'm at now, it's not a brand new radio station. It's been there for a long time, even though they built this new studio I'm going to be using. It is the cleanest radio station maybe in the United States, and I'm not exaggerating.
Well, I know you like that because I know you hate clutter. Brian,
my gosh.
And Brian and I don't like clutter. And I know that you would appreciate that. But a lot of people don't even notice that.
It's absolutely amazing. Well, anyway, guys, we are way out of time. We got to run, but we'll be back next time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Want to know where all the bodies are buried? Author Robert Allen Miltenberg holds the key to that question in his book, Pool Boy to the Mob, Everybody Out of the Pool. Author Robert Allen Miltenberg holds the key to that question in his book, Pool Boy to the Mob. Welcome to Mob-Ammy Beach. This book is a fictionalized account of Miltenberg working at a mob-owned Miami Beach hotel in the 70s. If you're a fan of The Godfather, Goodfellas, or The Sopranos, you will love this story that's full of colorful characters and wisecracking wise guys. It's a story with everything from Playboy bunnies and weaponized parrots to shattering the glass ceiling and getting away with murder, all in paradise. This is a wise guy tale you've never heard. Surrounded by pools, the trick for Bobby Moskowitz was not slipping in the one thicker than water. Bobby lived to tell the tales, and now you can read all about it. The funniest mob novel since Jimmy Breslin's The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. Pool Boy to the Mob. Everybody out of the pool. From author Robert Allen Miltenberg. Available on Amazon. Order your copy right now.